Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Daysofourlives, March 23rd, 2026. So, lots of things to get through on today's episode. Let's get into firstly Rafe and Kat. So, they're just catching up on recent developments regarding the whole secret lab and what EJ has been up to. So, they reached at I guess that low-key bar. It's closed for the day, so they're there to brainstorm what they're gonna do, what they have found out. So Kat said that she had to resort to kissing EJ and making up a lie, but later on to be maybe a truth, of her kissing him in Italy when he was unconscious. So she used that to her advantage and distracted him while they could investigate the secret lab, find out that there's a pod, and also find Stephanie and Jeremy. So Kat said that EJ swore up and down he has nothing to do with Stephanie's disappearance. Also, he does not know where Rolf is at all. He also said that if Stephanie was missing, or if he had known that she was at the secret lab somewhere, he would have done his darndest to rescue her. Although we know he's full of bull, because he had the opportunity to rescue her a lot earlier, and yet still he wanted Rolf to dispose of them permanently. I mean, he even went over there to say he had nothing to do with this, and he was trying to even make friendly with Stephanie, and that Stephanie is a valued employee and blah blah blah. But EJ, you had a split second to rescue them earlier and be the hero in this whole thing, because you initially had nothing to do with it. But anyways, Rafe asked her if if she believed it or not. She said, yeah, it seems as if he's telling the truth. And she also asked Mark, and Mark, of course he has the NDA, so he can't really say much. But she doesn't believe he has anything to do with it either. Now, Rafe doesn't really like the idea of her trying to get down and dirty with EJ or any of that sort, because he is ruthless and dangerous. And if he finds out that Kat was the one who let Kayla in there to search the lab or use a secret code to open the lab, then it's gonna be hell to pay, and EJ will forget about his feelings for Kat and be ruthless, as we already know he can be when he's cornered and when he's hurt. Now, Rafe said that they're looking for Dr. Rolf. Of course, it could be a burner phone that EJ used to contact Rolf. However, remember, Kat found the shoes in the basement or wherever downstairs in the Mayor mansion, and they're thinking maybe it's Rolf. So now Rafe is gonna call Jada to make sure that warrant actually be enacted, and they can search out the lab, the secret basement. So anyways, moving on, Kat does go over to EJ and they talk a little bit. Of course, EJ is still swooning over their kiss together, and he talks briefly about it, and he said that do you feel anything from that? So she said she doesn't want to lead him on. A lot was going on, a lot of emotions were high, and she doesn't want to give him the wrong message. And he said he understands, and she said, plus I'm your employee, it wouldn't look professional. So he says, I get that you will lead, and we'll go based off your comfort level, right? I understand what it is, but I'm definitely feeling you. I'm really having these feelings drawn towards you, and I really like what happened the other night. So anyways, they start talking about the lab and Stephanie and all of that. So she does ask him again, do you have anything to do with it? And he said no, and he would have done what he had to do to rescue her and Jeremy. She also asked about the pod, because it's now the high topic of Salem in the newspaper, and he said that this is just part of my proprietary research, and I really don't want to share nothing about it right now, but I promise you it's above board. And she was trying to he was trying to wonder who opened the lab, or how did police get into the lab, and she said she had nothing to do with it, she doesn't even know the code. And he said, I'm not trying to accuse you or anything, I just want to find out what's really going on. Now, he talked about Mark, but then Mark was out of town with Felicity, so I said okay. And she said maybe the police officer watched Mark put in the code one time when they were searching the lab initially, and maybe that happened. Now, Kat is just asking him who was in the pod, all of that. So of course EJ is not really telling her this kind of detail at first at all. He did talk to Paulina briefly because he found out that the police want to search downstairs and he doesn't want that to happen. Rita was the one who told him about it, and he called Paulina and he made sure to tell her that, look, use your mayor powers to actually make that warrant disappear. And you know how to do this thing. You know how to let it go all the way. So of course she's backed in the corner. She doesn't want him to tell Abe that, hey, he was working on his late wife, and then because Pauline didn't act upon certain things, Lexi died and all of that. So of course he's using that to guilt trip her, blackmail her, whatever. And poor Paulina, I almost feel bad for her. She had to do what she had to do to make it go away. Now, speaking of Paulina, she got that call from EJ and was uneasy after that, and Abe came in, and Abe is like, everything all right? So she said she's just been jumpy since the whole shooting and everything else going on in Salem. So he understands that, and he talks about how Liam is on the run, and he feels bad for Liam and also knows why he took the job, right? Why he didn't want to say anything or remain silent. Now, she talked about going out of town or doing something together the next day, and Paulina doesn't even realize that Abe go visits his late wife's grave every year on a certain day, and I guess she's just caught up in everything else, and she even jumped at the moment he said Lexi, because this whole secret is about Lexi. And he said, I visit her grave every that specific day, so we can do that another day. So she said, okay, cool. Now Paulina was on the phone with the judge, and she was able to let the warrant go away. And that was really it. But this is just gonna be a whole mess when Abe finds out. Am I the only one that really do not care much about Leo and his self-loathing and him complaining about how he doesn't want to be with him, and him torn between the two guys, Dimitri and Harvey, and blah blah blah, and not knowing what he wants to do? I mean, are we still in high school that we don't know how to move on from it's complicated to actually we know who we truly want and stop playing around in the other person's face? Come on now, Leo. It's just crazy to me. But anyways, he's there in Salem. He's getting medical attention because he's still recovering from this head injury without Dimitri. And Marlena found that out from Kayla because she didn't know what was really going on, that he was back in town and without Dimitri. So she went there to visit him, see how he's doing, how he's feeling. And he tells her what was happening in Alamania, how he went with Dimitri to prove his innocence because he believed in it and he believed he was being set up. And she just asks him, hey, are you just doing this just because you're trying to help him, or do you still have feelings for him, residual feelings? Which he admits to that. He wishes he didn't have it, but he does. And he talked about how Harvey called him while he was there, and he didn't get the chance to tell Harvey that he was there with Dimitri in Alamania, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying, you had enough chance because he was there lying about the TV. You're there tittering over the place while Dimitri was there in the shower for a long time. You could have told Harvey. But anyways, he's saying Harvey might not forgive him or want to be with him anymore, and he thinks he blew it. He's gonna be alone, and he may not see Dimitri again, and blah blah blah, something that is not really that interesting to me regardless. But Marlena reminds him that, he has good qualities, and maybe the qualities he has found out he has while he was with Harvey is going to still be there, and he won't be alone for the rest of his life. So she was just there empowering him and knowing that he will get where he needs to get to in time. And yeah, again, this is very uninteresting now. Now, speaking of Alemania, Jada and Rafe, they got some news from Andrew and Paul that Vivian is supposedly dead, heart failure, and Jada is asking Rafe, hey, do you believe this? So he said, that's what Andrew and Paul are going to do when they go back to Alemania, that to just find out if this is true. We already know it's not true. It's some kind of plot to just, distract the authorities or whoever, so that other things can happen. And EJ likes his revenge plots and everything, so we know EJ is behind this. While they are talking or going over this, an officer comes to Jada and he tells her that the judge he's not going through with the search warrant. And of course she's upset about that, and she's like, how could this happen? And Rafe is like, duh, like, EJ, come on now. So they're upset about that, but yeah, it's whatever. So now we see Stephanie. She's still going through her PTSD. It's been a rough couple of days for her. And Alex, he is trying to comfort her in any way. He did speak to Jada earlier and update her. And also he asked a favor for her to, just collect the ring from evidence. She was able to bend the rules for that. But I'm just saying, if it was anybody else, she wouldn't do these kind of things. I don't like it. If it's evidence, it should stay in evidence. I don't care if he needs to put it back on her finger. It should stay until everything else is completed. But anyways, he brings the ring back to her and he tries to put it in her finger, and she's hyperventilating. She has PTSD from everything when Owen was trying to put the ring on her finger and propose or whatever, and she's still scared. And Alex apologizes. Alex said we can get another ring. We can, do it differently. And she said, no, this is a ring that I got when I was proposed to, when I said I do, and I don't want somebody like Owen to mess that up for us. But you can tell that she's still struggling with the whole ordeal, as understandable. Now, he asks if he can do anything to just, help her, calm her down, all of that. And she said, he can get me a latte. So he goes to get the latte, and that's when he was, speaking to Kayla, and he's worried that it's going to affect their marriage or their relationship. He's worried that he can't really do nothing for her, and she's pushing him away and blah. And I'm just saying, Alex, read the hospital room. Like, read the hospital room, because nobody can be that insensitive. You realize she just went through this ordeal not too long ago. Give her some space and time for her to deal with what it is. I'm not really a big fan of Stephanie, but come on now, like, it's not about you, and you can't just be up in it. Not everybody likes that. Give her some space to like heal and recover. And not everybody wants certain people up in their space, especially if they can't relate. So just back off and give the lady some space to just come to it. She just came out of that whole ordeal. And that was what Kayla is saying. And Kayla said it will all be fine. And he's thinking about how it affected Jada and Ray's relationship. Again, you can't compare the two. And not because it happened to Jada and Ray's relationship means it's going to happen to theirs. But it might just, because, again, let's get into why I think it might happen. And one reason is, the biggest reason is Jeremy, right? But before we get there, Jeremy has arrived back at the Horton house, and Julie's surprised to see him. She wanted to pick him up, but, he said it's okay. JJ dropped him off to get his car from the school compound. And, it's a lot for JJ going through the shoot and everything, and he's holding up. So Julie's just happy to see him because he's been quiet, and she, is proud of what he did to help Stephanie, and she is so glad that he's okay. Apart from his thumb that's gonna recover, he's fine. So he thanks her for just being in his corner throughout this whole thing. And she said, I had to admit that when you're on the run, she had a split-second thought that maybe he's not the man she thought he was, and maybe he's guilty of what he's being accused of. And he understands, and he doesn't blame her, and she apologized. But, he's just glad to be back in one piece, and she is as well. He does tell her that he's not going to New York, and he knows his father is upset about that, but he wants to stick around here for a while, and she's happy selfishly for that reason. So yeah, back to what I was saying about Jeremy being the main reason why this whole relationship between Alex and Stephanie don't work out, which I don't mind, because I really don't care for them as a couple. I'm liking Jeremy and Stephanie, especially their last scene where they were captured together and they were getting closer together. I liked it. I like the chemistry that's developing between them, and also more personality development for Stephanie. I guess, with him, it could be different. She may be an interesting character with Jeremy. I don't know. It's soon to tell, but let's see. Anyways, she was happy to see him, and nobody else can relate to what she has been through other than Jeremy. So now they're trauma bonding, and she again apologizes to him for how she treated him, how she made the town look at him like the town's prior. And he said, look, I mean, given the character profile, I completely fit it. And she said, look, you're not the same man you were years ago. And he is, felt bad about how he treated her many years ago. But at the same time, he felt like he deserved it. And she said, no, you didn't deserve what you've been through a while ago. And it's just so hard because nobody else can relate to what we've been through. I know, other than you relating to what I've been through. And I'm just glad that I wasn't alone throughout this ordeal, that you were there. And while this is happening, poor Alex comes in with the latte, and he is at the door, and he's seen them trauma bonding, and he ends up going away sorrowfully. But hey, it is what it is. Like, you can't relate, my guy. You can't relate. But anyways, Jeremy is there just comforting Stephanie. And yeah, that was really it for today's episode, guys. But man, I don't know, I like this happening, this whole thing happening again between Stephanie and Jeremy. I didn't remember exactly when they first came about years ago. I think I missed out on that relationship, but I don't mind this happening again. But let's see, what do you guys think of this possibly happening again? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys tomorrow.